The Deception of Rust. The invitation arrived on a quiet Thursday morning at Earth Fleet Command. Captain Elena Reyes stared at the holographic message floating above her desk, reading it for the third time. Her weathered face, marked by 15 years of space service, remained expressionless, but her dark eyes narrowed slightly. "They want us to bring our fleet to their military exhibition," she said finally, looking up at her assembled officers in the command room's dim light. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "All species will display their military capabilities," said Commander Thomas Chen, Earth's chief strategic officer. His practical uniform contrasted with the elaborate medals he'd earned during the Proxima campaign. "It's a peacetime tradition, dating back thousands of years." Elena nodded slowly. Humanity had joined the Galactic Confederation only 25 years ago, merely a heartbeat in cosmic terms. Most alien civilizations had been traversing the stars for millennia before humans had left their solar system. "What ships should we bring?" asked Dr. Leon Wright, head engineer of Earth's flagship Intrepid. Her hands, calloused from years of manual repairs despite the availability of automated systems, tapped nervously on the conference table. Commander Chen glanced at the reports on his tablet. "The Confederation expects us to showcase our most advanced technology. They're curious about human capabilities." Elena stood and walked to the viewport overlooking Earth's massive orbital shipyard. Dozens of vessels floated in neat formations, from small patrol ships to massive carriers. Some gleamed with newness, their hulls unblemished by space travel. "No," Elena said after a long pause. "We won't bring our newest ships." The room fell silent again. Chen stepped closer to her, concern evident in his expression. "Captain, if we don't showcase our best technology, they'll think we're even further behind than they already believe. The Confederation already sees us as primitive newcomers." Elena turned, a small smile playing at the corner of her lips. "Exactly. And we'll let them keep thinking that." 3 days later, Chen sat across from Diplomat Sorlex, the Confederation's representative assigned to Earth. Sorlex's scaled skin had a faint emerald tint that gave them a regal appearance. The alien's real name was an untranslatable series of clicks, which human vocal cords couldn't reproduce. They met at a neutral space station orbiting Mars, a common meeting point for human-alien diplomatic discussions. The station's artificial gravity was set slightly lower than Earth standard as a compromise for various species. "I must admit," Sorlex said, drinking from a container that smelled like cinnamon and battery acid, "we were surprised by your selection of ships for the exhibition." Chen kept his face neutral, years of diplomatic training coming into play. "Oh, what surprises you about it?" "The Heritage Fleet, ships that have been in service for over 30 Earth years." Sorlex made a clicking sound that the translator didn't bother converting, clearly laughter. "Most species will be bringing vessels constructed within the last 3 standard cycles. Technology advances quickly." Chen smiled politely. "We're proud of our Heritage Fleet. Those ships have history." "History won't help much against modern defenses," Sorlex replied. "But we appreciate Earth's participation nonetheless. It's important for younger species to observe and learn from the more established civilizations." After Sorlex left, Chen sent an encrypted message to Elena. "They're underestimating us, exactly as you predicted." In the orbital shipyard above Earth, Elena walked through the cavernous bay of the Resilience, her chosen flagship for the mission. The vessel had first launched 15 years ago and had been upgraded countless times since then. To an outsider, it looked outdated, its hull marked with repair patches, and lacking the sleek lines of newer ships. Lieutenant Kira Santos, the weapons specialist assigned to the mission, fell into step beside her. Her practical haircut and focused expression matched her no-nonsense attitude. "The Resilience's weapon systems are ready," she reported. "We've reinstalled the older missile tubes as requested, and the energy cannons have been modified to look less efficient than they actually are." Elena nodded approvingly. "And the shields?" "Configured to appear as standard protection fields. The adaptive systems are hidden beneath 4 layers of security protocols. They won't detect them unless they're specifically looking. And they won't be looking, Alina concluded, because they don't think we have that technology. They continued their inspection, passing crew members preparing for the upcoming journey. Unlike the uniform perfection seen on newer vessels, the Heritage Fleet crews were a mix of veterans and specialists, each chosen for experience rather than appearance. In the engine room, they found Dr. Wright hunched over an open panel, her hands deep in the ship's core systems. "How are the modifications coming along?" Alina asked. Dr. Wright straightened up, wiping grease from her hands. "Almost done, Captain. From the outside, these will register as standard fusion drives from our early space era. Only someone physically examining them would discover they're actually our latest quantum fold engines." "Good," Alina said. "Remember, everything about these ships needs to look functional but outdated." As they finished their inspection tour and returned to the bridge, Lieutenant Marcus Kim, the communications officer, approached with a concerned expression. "Captain, we've received the final roster of participating species. There will be 27 different civilizations showcasing their military vessels." He handed Alina a tablet with the list. Some of these species had been spacefaring for over 15,000 years. Alina scanned the list, recognizing most names from briefings and historical records. The Galactic Confederation comprised the 12 oldest spacefaring races, with others like humans having varying levels of representation based on their technological advancement and territorial holdings. "Look at these specifications they've provided," Marcus continued, pointing at the attached files. "The Thelicosan ships use dimensional shift technology. The Vordax fleet has temporal shielding. We can't compete with this." Alina handed the tablet back with a calm expression. "We're not trying to compete with their technology, Marcus. We're playing a different game entirely." Later that evening, as Earth grew smaller in the viewports, Alina stood alone on the observation deck. The Heritage Fleet, 15 ships of varying sizes, all bearing the marks of long service, formed up around the Resilience. Chen joined her, watching the blue planet fade into the distance. "Thorlex called our ships charming antiques," he said. Alina chuckled. "Perfect. Let them think that." Chen turned to face her. "You really believe this will work? That our old ships will impress the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy?" Alina's eyes reflected the starlight as she looked out into the vastness of space. "These ships have something their shiny new vessels don't," she said quietly. "They've survived. They've adapted. They've evolved." She placed a hand on the cool metal of the viewport frame. "Just like humanity." The fleet accelerated, leaving Earth's solar system behind as they set course for the galactic core, where the most powerful civilizations in known space waited to be shown just how dangerous underestimating humans could be. Space stretched endlessly before the Heritage Fleet as they traveled toward the exhibition grounds. The stars blazed like diamonds against the black void, growing denser as they approached the heart of the galaxy. Captain Alina Reyes stood on the bridge of the Resilience, watching the main view screen with calm focus. 2 weeks of travel completed, announced Marcus from his communication station. "We're making good time, Captain." Alina nodded. "Any word from the Confederation?" "They've sent updated coordinates for the exhibition arena," Marcus replied, tapping on his screen. "They seem surprised we're keeping pace with the expected timeline." Commander Chen, who had been studying reports at a nearby console, smiled slightly. "They'd probably expected our outdated engines to delay us." The bridge crew shared knowing looks. The Heritage Fleet might appear old on the outside, but beneath the worn hulls and visible repair patches lay technology that was far from obsolete. Dr. Wright's voice came through the ship's comm system. "Captain, you might want to come down to engineering. We're having some issues with the primary cooling system." 20 minutes later, Alina stood in the engine room, which hummed with the deep vibration of the massive drives pushing the Resilience through space. Unlike the sterile, automated engine rooms of newer vessels, This one was crowded with equipment, tools, and busy crew members. The air smelled of metal and ozone. Dr. Wright pointed to a large panel displaying the ship's cooling system. "Look here. The external sensors are showing what appears to be an inefficient cooling cycle. If any alien vessels scan us, they'll see exactly what we want them to see, an outdated cooling system struggling to keep up." Elena studied the readouts. But the actual system, running at peak efficiency, Dr. Wright grinned, wiping her hands on a rag. "Better than peak. I've made some modifications. We're actually running 30% cooler than our newest ships back home. But no one would know without a physical inspection." "Good work," Elena said, clapping Dr. Wright on the shoulder. On her way back to the bridge, Elena passed the training deck, where Lieutenant Santos was drilling a team of weapons specialists. Through the observation window, she watched as Santos directed a simulation of an old-style missile launch sequence. Target acquired. Launching missiles 1 through 4, called out one of the younger officers, his fingers dancing across a control panel that looked intentionally bulky and outdated. Santos nodded in approval, but then barked, "Too fast. Remember, we're supposed to have slower targeting systems. Add a 3-second delay between target lock and firing sequence." The young officer adjusted his approach, deliberately slowing down what would normally be an instantaneous process. Santos noticed Elena watching and stepped away from the training to join her in the corridor. "How's it going?" Elena asked. "They're getting the hang of it," Santos replied. "It's challenging for the newer crew members. They've trained on automated systems their whole careers, and now they have to pretend they're using technology from 30 years ago." "But underneath the act," Elena prompted. Santos smiled, a predatory gleam in her eyes. "Underneath, we have targeting systems that could thread a needle from 1,000,000 kilometers away. The missiles look like our old M27s, but they've got the newest guidance packages hidden inside the old casings." Elena nodded with satisfaction. "Keep up the good work. We need everyone perfect in their roles before we reach the exhibition." As they approached the edge of the Confederation's core systems, they encountered increasingly heavier traffic, ships of all sizes and designs moving through the carefully monitored space lanes. The diversity was staggering. Crystalline vessels that seemed to shift and flow like liquid, massive organic-looking ships that pulsed with bioluminescence, elegant constructions that appeared impossibly thin and fragile, yet moved with incredible speed. Amid this procession of advanced technology, the Earth's heritage fleet looked exactly like what they were pretending to be, outdated relics from a primitive civilization. Their arrival at the staging area outside the exhibition grounds did not go unnoticed. Several sleek patrol vessels approached, circling the human ships with obvious curiosity and perhaps amusement. "We're being hailed," Captain Marcus reported. "It's the exhibition coordinator." On screen, Elena ordered, straightening her uniform. The view screen flickered to life, showing an elegant alien with luminous silvery skin and multiple sets of eyes arranged vertically on its face. The species was unfamiliar to Elena, probably one of the newer Confederation members. "Earth vessels," the alien said, its translator giving its voice a musical quality. "I am Coordinator Killax. Welcome to the 7th Centennial Military Exhibition. We have assigned you docking station E47 in the auxiliary display area." Elena frowned slightly. "Auxiliary area?" "Yes," Killax replied, with what seemed like embarrassment. "Given the historical nature of your vessels, we thought it would be most appropriate. The main exhibition halls are reserved for current-generation technology presentations." Commander Chen stepped forward. "With respect, Coordinator, we were invited as full participants." Killax's upper set of eyes blinked rapidly. Of course. And you are full participants. The auxiliary area will give your vessels the context they deserve. Visitors interested in military history will find your display most educational." Before Chen could protest further, Elena placed a hand on his arm. "The auxiliary area will be fine, Coordinator. Thank you for your consideration." After the transmission ended, Chen turned to her. "They're putting us in the equivalent of a museum, Alina." She smiled, a hint of steel in her eyes. "Perfect. The further we're from the spotlight, the better our surprise will be." As they approached their designated docking area, Alina could see the other ships already on display. The contrast couldn't have been more stark. The other vessels gleamed with impossible materials, some seeming to exist partially in other dimensions, others surrounded by fields of energy that distorted the very space around them. And then there was the Heritage Fleet, scared, patched, and seemingly held together by determination as much as technology. "Captain," Marcus called out, "we're receiving numerous scan attempts from the other vessels." "Let them scan," Alina replied calmly. "Our modifications will hold." "They're talking about us on open channels," Marcus added, a hint of anger in his voice. "Would you like me to translate?" "No need," Alina said. "I can imagine what they're saying." As they docked in their assigned area, noticeably separated from the gleaming ships of the established powers, Alina gathered her senior officers for a final briefing. "Tomorrow," she said, looking at each of them in turn, "the exhibition begins. For 3 days, we'll endure their condescension and their pity. We'll smile and nod, and play our parts perfectly." "And then?" Dr. Wright asked. Alina's smile was both warm and dangerous. "And then we'll show them exactly what humanity is capable of. The power beneath the rust." The first day of the Galactic Military Exhibition dawned with a ceremony that could only be described as ostentatious. In the central arena, a massive space constructed specifically for the event, representatives from all 27 participating civilizations gathered. The humans, relegated to the back, watched as species that had mastered interstellar travel before Earth had discovered electricity took center stage. Captain Alina Reyes stood with her senior officers, all wearing dress uniforms that, like their ships, were deliberately designed to look outdated compared to the shimmering, high-tech attire of the other species. "The Vordax delegation looks like they're wearing liquid starlight," muttered Lieutenant Santos, eyeing the nearest group of aliens. Their bodies were encased in what appeared to be flowing, luminescent material that shifted colors with their movements. "Focus," Alina reminded her quietly. "Remember why we're here." The exhibition's opening address was delivered by High Chancellor Zorth of the Thelicosans, one of the founding members of the Confederation. The ancient being, whose crystalline body structure caught and refracted light in hypnotic patterns, spoke for nearly 30 minutes about peace, cooperation, and the importance of understanding each civilization's defensive capabilities. "Only through transparency can we maintain the delicate balance that has kept our galaxy peaceful for millennia," Zorth concluded. "Let the exhibitions begin." What followed was a carefully choreographed display of technological prowess. Each species was allocated time to showcase their military vessels and capabilities in the main exhibition space, a vast arena surrounded by observation decks where diplomats, military officials, and civilians from countless worlds could witness the demonstrations. The humans watched as civilization after civilization presented technologies that seemed to defy the very laws of physics as they understood them. The Vordax ships manipulated time itself, creating bubbles where seconds stretched into minutes. The Thelicosans demonstrated weapons that could phase through any known shield by temporarily shifting the projectile into another dimension. "We're scheduled last," Commander Chen informed Alina after consulting his tablet. "Tomorrow afternoon, just before the closing ceremony." Alina nodded. "Of course we are." As they walked through the exhibition halls, observing the static displays and technical presentations from various species, they couldn't help but notice the reactions their presence elicited. Looks of curiosity quickly gave way to dismissal once the aliens realized these humans were the ones with the antique fleet. "Captain Reyes," a familiar voice called out. Alina turned to see Diplomat Sorlex approaching, accompanied by a group of high-ranking officials from various species. "I'm so pleased you could make it. I was just telling my colleagues about Earth's contribution to the exhibition." "Were you now?" Elena replied pleasantly. Oh yes, Sorlex continued, either missing or ignoring the edge in her voice. I was explaining how fascinating it is to see the developmental stages of a young species. It's like a living museum. The officials with Sorlex made various sounds that their translators converted to polite laughter. One tall, avian alien stepped forward. I am Admiral Krezoth of the Palaxian Armada. It introduced itself. I understand your vessels still primarily use fusion propulsion. How quaint. We work with what we have, Elena replied neutrally. Of course, the Admiral continued. We all started somewhere. The Palaxians began with simple chemical rockets some 40,000 years ago. That must have been quite the journey, Elena commented. Indeed. Perhaps after your demonstration tomorrow, some of our engineers could offer consultations. We could suggest some basic improvements to your propulsion systems. Nothing too advanced, of course, but something to help you along. Commander Chen placed a warning hand on Lieutenant Santo's arm, sensing her bristling at the condescension. That's very generous, Elena replied, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. We'll consider it. As they moved away from the group, Dr. Wright whispered, I'd like to show them the basic improvements I could make to their supposedly advanced systems. Patience, Elena reminded her. Our time will come. That evening, the Heritage Fleet crew gathered in a private meeting room assigned to them in the auxiliary section. The mood was tense after a day of enduring subtle, and not so subtle, mockery. Tomorrow's our turn, Elena began, addressing the assembled officers. I know today was difficult. It's not easy to be underestimated and dismissed. It's worse than that, Lieutenant Kim said. I've been monitoring their communications. Some species are questioning why humans were even invited. They're calling it a charity inclusion. Several officers muttered angrily at this. Good, Elena said, surprising them into silence. Let them think exactly that. The success of our mission depends on being underestimated. She activated a holographic display showing the exhibition schedule. We'd present at 1400 hours tomorrow. The plan remains unchanged. We'll demonstrate exactly what they expect to see. Outdated weapons, sluggish maneuvers, basic shield technology. Permission to speak freely, Captain, a young officer asked from the back. Granted, Ensign Cooper. Why are we doing this? Why not show them what we're really capable of? Make them respect us. Elena studied the young woman for a moment before responding. Respect is earned in many ways, Ensign. Sometimes it comes from demonstration, yes, but there's also value in strategic restraint. She looked around the room. We're new to this galactic community. We're still learning who our true allies might be, who might become competitors or even threats. Right now, our greatest advantage is that they don't know what we're truly capable of. Commander Chen nodded in agreement. There's an old Earth saying, it's better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. We're applying the same principle here, but with technology instead of words. But, Cooper began. Enough, Elena said firmly. We all have our orders. Dismissed. The next morning, as the crew made final preparations for their demonstration, an unexpected alert came through. Captain to the bridge. Lieutenant Kim's voice sounded over the comm system, tension evident in his tone. When Elena arrived, she found her senior officers already gathered, their expressions grave. What's happening? She demanded. We've detected unusual activity at the edge of the system, Kim reported. Multiple vessels approaching at high speed, not responding to hails. Pirates, Chen suggested, this far into Confederation space. Unlikely, Kim replied. These ships are moving with military precision, and they're well armed. Elena studied the tactical display. How long until they reach the exhibition grounds? At current speed, less than 30 minutes. Have you alerted Confederation security? Yes, Captain. They're skeptical. They believe it's probably just a late arrival of exhibition participants. Show me the scan data, Alina ordered. After reviewing the information, she shook her head. Those aren't exhibition ships. They're running hot and in attack formation. She straightened. Sound battle stations. Quietly. No alarms that might alert the other species. Captain, Chen questioned. If we power up our systems now. I know, Alina replied grimly. Our cover will be blown. But I'd rather reveal our capabilities than watch a massacre. 25 minutes later, as Alina's worst fears were confirmed, chaos erupted across the exhibition grounds. The unknown vessels, 17 in total, dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly in the exhibition space, weapons already firing. Confederation vessels are scrambling, Kim reported as the bridge crew watched in horror. But they were completely unprepared. Their shields weren't even at minimum power. On the main view screen, they could see the elegant ships they had spent the previous day admiring now frantically trying to power up defensive systems. Several smaller vessels had already been crippled by the initial barrage. Confederation security is hailing all ships, Kim continued. They're requesting assistance. Alina didn't hesitate. Lieutenant Santos, power up all weapons systems. Dr. Wright, bring the engines to full capacity. Drop the camouflage protocols. Aye, Captain, they responded in unison. Throughout the Resilience and the other ships of the Heritage Fleet, hidden systems came online. Beneath weathered hulls, cutting-edge technology hummed to life. The energy signatures of the human vessels suddenly changed dramatically, drawing surprised looks from nearby ships. All Heritage Fleet vessels report ready, Captain, Chen announced. Move to intercept, Alina ordered calmly. Focus on protecting the civilian observation decks. The outdated human ships surged forward with startling speed, placing themselves between the attackers and the most vulnerable areas of the exhibition grounds. Open a channel to all Confederation vessels, Alina commanded. Kim worked his console. Channel open. This is Captain Alina Reyes of Earth Fleet. We are engaging the hostile forces. Evacuate civilians and coordinate your defensive efforts through our tactical officer on frequency Delta 9. Without waiting for acknowledgement, Alina turned to Santos. Show them what humans are really capable of, Lieutenant. What followed would later be described in Confederation records as the 30-minute miracle. The Heritage Fleet moved with a coordination and precision that belied their appearance. Where the attackers, later identified as a radical splinter faction of the Mavari, a species denied Confederation membership, expected to find easy targets, they instead encountered a defense that seemed to anticipate their every move. From the Resilience, Alina directed her fleet with the calm efficiency that had earned her command. The human vessels split into predetermined formations, executing complex maneuvers that had been practiced for years but never revealed outside Earth space. They're targeting the Thelicosan flagship, Santos reported. Their shields are failing. Intercept with the Dauntless and Pioneer, Alina ordered. Deploy countermeasures package 3. The two human vessels swung into position, just as the Mavari ships launched what appeared to be phase-shifted torpedoes, weapons designed specifically to bypass Thelicosan defenses. The supposedly outdated human ships suddenly emitted a complex field of energy that enveloped the incoming torpedoes. The weapons, instead of phasing through to their target, detonated harmlessly against an adaptive barrier that shouldn't have existed on vessels of the Heritage Fleet's apparent age. How did they? The Thelicosan commander's voice came through the open channel, shock evident despite the translator. You can thank us later, Alina replied briskly. Move your civilians to Sector 7. We'll cover you. As the battle progressed, more of the human fleet's hidden capabilities were revealed by necessity. Weapons that appeared to be simple projectile launchers unleashed guidance-capable missiles with multiple countermeasure systems. Shield technology that had seemed rudimentary proved capable of adapting to various attack forms, and the supposedly fusion-based engines demonstrated maneuverability that rivaled the most advanced Confederation vessels. The Mavari are retreating, Chen announced after 27 minutes of intense combat. 3 of their vessels destroyed, 7 disabled, the rest withdrawing at maximum speed. Casualties? Elena asked immediately. None on our side. Minimal among the Confederation forces, thanks to our intervention. Some structural damage to the exhibition grounds, but the civilian areas were successfully protected. Elena allowed herself a small smile. Stand down from battle stations. Begin damage assessment and prepare to assist with rescue operations. As the immediate crisis passed, the comm system lit up with incoming hails from virtually every species present at the exhibition. It seems we have some explaining to do, Chen observed dryly. Indeed, Elena agreed. But first, let's make sure everyone's safe. In the aftermath of the attack, the exhibition's grand closing ceremony was canceled. Instead, an emergency session of the Confederation Council was convened, with the human delegation unexpectedly placed in a position of prominence. High Chancellor Zorith himself addressed Captain Reyes directly. You deliberately concealed your true technological capabilities from the Confederation. Some might consider that an act of deception. Elena stood tall before the assembled representatives. With respect, Chancellor, we concealed nothing that was directly asked of us. We brought our heritage fleet as requested. The fact that our heritage fleet is more capable than you assumed speaks to your preconceptions, not our deception. Admiral Krezoth of the Palaxians stepped forward. You modified those old ships. They're not original. Of course we modify them, Elena replied. That's what humans do. We adapt. We improve. We take what works and make it better. Our strength isn't in creating entirely new technologies. It's in understanding, integrating, and enhancing what already exists. But the level of integration, another representative protested. Your adaptive shields incorporated principles from at least 3 different Confederation species. 7. Actually, Dr. Wright corrected from her position behind Elena. We're quick studies. Diplomat Sorlex, looking distinctly uncomfortable, spoke next. Why the charade? Why present yourselves as technologically inferior? Because you assumed we were, Commander Chen answered simply. And in diplomacy, as in warfare, allowing an opponent to underestimate you is a tactical advantage. Are we opponents then? Chancellor Zorith asked sharply. That remains to be seen, Elena replied evenly. We came here in peace, but prepared for all contingencies, as today's events proved necessary. A murmur went through the assembled aliens. Your actions saved many lives today, Zorith acknowledged finally. For that, the Confederation owes you gratitude. But this revelation will require reconsideration of humanity's status within our community. We welcome that reconsideration, Elena said. Judge us not by your assumptions of what we should be, but by what we have proven ourselves to be. The aftermath of what became known as the Heritage Fleet Incident reverberated throughout galactic politics for years to come. Humanity's status within the Confederation was indeed reconsidered and significantly elevated. Treaties were renegotiated, trade agreements revised, and diplomatic protocols adjusted to reflect the new understanding of human capabilities. 6 months after the exhibition, Elena Reyes, now Admiral Reyes, stood in a new shipyard orbiting Jupiter, watching as construction proceeded on the next generation of human vessels. These ships made no pretense of being anything other than what they were, a perfect integration of human ingenuity with the best technologies the galaxy had to offer. Commander Chen joined her at the viewport. No more hiding our capabilities then. No need, Elena replied. That particular strategy has served its purpose. Do you think they'll ever forgive us for the deception? Elena considered the question. They'll respect us for it, once they truly understand. In their arrogance, they saw what they expected to see, primitive humans with outdated technology. They never bothered to look deeper. And that was their mistake, Chen concluded. One they won't make again, Elena agreed. But more importantly, neither will any other species who might consider humanity an easy target. She turned from the viewport to face her old friend. Our rusty old ships taught the galaxy an important lesson. Never judge by appearances alone, especially when those appearances involve humans. Chen smiled, because underneath that rust might be the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. Elena finished. Human ingenuity. As they watched the new fleet taking shape, both officers knew that humanity's place in the stars had been forever altered, not by the ships they had built, but by the minds that had conceived the strategy that unveiled them. In a galaxy of ancient civilizations and seemingly magical technologies, humans had proven that sometimes the most powerful advantage wasn't having the most advanced weapon. It was being underestimated by those who did.